Hello, and welcome to Electrifying Growth, a podcast brought to you by Edison Partners. I'm Chris Sugden, managing partner here at Edison and your host. There are moments in a person or company's journey that are undeniably electric. The spark or sparks, if you will, that propel you or your company to new heights. With Electrifying Growth, we're here to have in-depth, real conversations with great leaders who have been there and done it before. Edison has been investing in high-growth technology companies for more than 35 years, and I have been here at Edison doing this investing piece for more than 20 years. We've led over 225 investments. We understand that it takes great leaders and visionaries to build market leaders. We are your support system, a CEO and management's entourage, if you will. Let's introduce this episode's guest. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Electrifying Growth, where we try and bring growth company CEOs and those who walk the walk in growth companies and have them share both personal and professional ideas with you and how they got to where they are. In this episode, we have Kevin Herr, CEO of KnowledgeLake. And interesting, as you'll hear in Kevin's story, he was just recently elevated as CEO from a bit of a, call it non-traditional, although sometimes traditional role of both CFO and COO. So his journey is a little bit more in the CFO realm, but yet been in startup companies. He actually started a business, been in some very big companies. He was previously CFO of Omnigo Software. He led the international expansion of that business. We'll talk a little bit about that. And before that, CFO of SMP. Edison, both disclosure and interestingly on this episode, we just made a $65 million investment, led that with a couple other co-investors from our LP base to do both a buyout of the business, help some founders cash out, and also provide some growth equity. So we're excited. And there's a press release out there about the KnowledgeLake Edison, a deal that you can go reference. And we're really excited about the opportunity with Kevin Herr and his team. So without further ado, let's talk to Kevin Herr. Kevin Herr, welcome to Electrifying Growth. How are you
Thank
today?
you for having me. Yeah,
absolutely. We're excited. I'm excited to chat with you just for the audience's sake. And we obviously, you heard a little bit in the introduction, but KnowledgeLake is one of Edison's newest investments, which we're really excited about. And we'll talk a bit about
just over 30 days.
Exactly. So we're sort of, if there is a honeymoon period, we're in that, but as a cool test, we try to get going right away. But before we jump right into what the company does and maybe a little bit about why Edison invested and kind of that riff, let's talk about you and your background a bit. And your story is pretty unique because with our investment, have gone from wearing a CFO and COO hat to a CEO hat, but maybe walk the audience back a little bit. You don't have to go back to birth, but how'd you end up CFO, COO, and now CEO of KnowledgeLake?
Yeah, it's really interesting. I guess if I start with like kind of my early years, my brother and I started a business together, and you learn you have to take out the trash and call on the bank and go get a customer and all those things that are all important instead of getting siloed into sort of a function. And so I learned business a little bit horizontally, which I think boded well for me later on in my career. And in fact, I would encourage young people to do that if they can. So you learn a lot of tough lessons, learn what not to do. And I went back to business school, got a degree in finance, and went and worked for some really great big companies because I figured they had it figured out and worked, with really smart people, primarily in manufacturing consumer products, but then had the opportunity about 15 years ago to come back in the mid-market and focus on SaaS B2B. And it's been in this private equity ecosystem, which has been really awesome to learn. And it just has a ton of opportunities. It's the right place at the right time. The industry is constantly under development, and especially with the advent of AI.
Which we're going to talk about for sure, given what KnowledgeLake does. But tell me more about your own journey as an entrepreneur. You just teased the audience, a lot of startup out there watching this, entrepreneurs watching this. But what did you and your brother do?
Yeah. So it's interesting because we focus at KnowledgeLake. One of our primary verticals is what we call BPOs or service bureaus. And it was really as operating one of those service bureaus.
Awesome.
And so he had experience doing it. He's 9 years older than me. And so it gave me a great opportunity to kind of learn from him.
What was it like working with your brother?
85% of it was awesome and 50% really hard.
You're still a little brother at 15%, weren't you?
Yeah, exactly.
Talk about, so interestingly enough, you and I share sort of a common thread in our own careers because I started in CFO, COO land in my own, in that domain, if you will, early in my career and ended up, sort of on this side of the table versus an operator side of the table. But all that being said, I've got a fondness for those who understand their way around a set of financial statements.
Mm,
Maybe talk about what the skill set is as a CFO in prior companies, not just KnowledgeLake,
yeah.
did for you. So you had the startup thing, then you
Yeah.
had an FP&A role and a CFO role. So talk
Yeah.
about the things that you think sometimes CEOs might be lacking by not having that knowledge, if you will.
Yeah. Yeah. I think some of the hot spots, especially in SaaS B2B, that you can contribute to the value creation. One is the liquidity capital side. So you have to do that well to stay in business. But, I think one of the trickiest aspects of business is pricing and coming at it from a financial mindset, meeting the market though where they're at and being able to put together those constructs can generate a ton of value, and it should be a win-win proposition and make it obvious for the customer and for the company. So that, I think, in a nutshell, is
Are you
in those
saying pricing shouldn't all be art? Those 50%?
sometimes it is. Yeah.
Okay, well, actually, let's drill down on that because I think you're right. There's a very common, whether you call it a growth equity or PE playbook. The bottom line is we should raise prices. And that's actually
Yeah.
often true. Like small
Yeah.
companies do underprice because they're underdogs, they need to
Yeah.
land the business. Price
Yeah.
is a natural lever.
Yeah.
But the idea of value pricing, value-based
Hmm.
pricing,
Hmm.
value creation, et cetera. Let's
Yeah.
face it, there is an art, which is just how much will
Yeah.
the market bear. But
Yeah.
how do you think about your own sort of CFO training as you
Mm.
brought it to whether it's pricing at KnowledgeLake or other places? Talk a
Yeah.
little bit about that.
I think when owner founders start businesses, you want to cover your costs. You think about your cost first, and then you want to cover that and add a margin onto it. So it's really this cost plus pricing model that
Right, even in
seems so
software,
attractive.
not just services, they do that. That's just the
Yeah,
natural.
exactly. It's just how you're kind of born into business. And it takes some maturity and some experimentation to understand what kind of value do we bring the customer. And if we can understand that better, then I can price off the value they're receiving instead of the cost that I'm generating. So that conversation, I love it. I think there's a lot of room to play. There are some frameworks, of course, like triple tariffs that you can look at and lean on, but every market is a little bit unique.
Well, you know what? I'm sorry we're going down this. I wasn't sure that we'd get into pricing this much, but I think it's a big topic. Talk a little bit about
Mm.
ways you found best to, pull from a customer value. Because of course they don't want to necessarily tell you how much value they're getting because then they do see you're going to raise my prices. But talk about there's the natural, we just need to talk to the customer. But what have you seen as ways to extract kind of that information from the customer or your team, et cetera?
Yeah, and we operate in a space that average selling price is tens of thousands and it could be even millions of dollars a year. And so the consultative selling aspect of it is really important
Yep.
because you do have to be good at just asking the right questions, but being able to document things that you're right, they might not want to tell you. And so, but the more that you can understand about their business and where the value lies, it doesn't just inform your pricing, but also informs like your product roadmap and like where can you add more value or where are they getting more value?
Would you say on balance, young companies do enough of that, or they should do a lot more of that? As in, be informed
Yeah.
by the customer versus you'll tell the customer what they need, so to speak.
Yeah. I think it's an easy aspiration to have to want to do more of it. The tricky part is having the bandwidth to do it. And so many times you don't get enough at bats to just kind of figure out what the patterns are.
Let's talk about your company.
Yeah.
Frankly, as I've pitched or talked about your company to our investors, we have this sort of timeline on this slide, and I sort of think, did we shoot ourselves in the foot? Because we talk about when KnowledgeLake was founded. There's a
Oh, yeah.
20 plus year overnight success. We often talk about
Yeah, right.
10-year overnight successes, but there really is, it's almost like KL, KnowledgeLake, KL 2.0 versus 1.0.
Yeah.
But maybe before we get into what you do, talk about the company's journey a little bit. I know there's sort of modern history versus 20 years ago or 25 years ago, but talk about, kind of what it did before,
Yeah.
kind of a unique situation, buying it yourself back after being sold. Just
Right.
talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. So, in fact, I think it's a big part of our DNA. And so, version 1.0 was really born as sort of professional services company. So, we implemented a lot of the technology that we compete with today. And we knew kind of where the limits were and what sort of the inherent challenges were for a customer to take it and exploit value out of it. And so that was the genesis for starting to develop our own software, which we ended up doing roughly 10, 15 years ago. We did it so well that Fujitsu became a strategic partner. They ended up buying the company whole hog, thinking they could bundle the software and the hardware together. And that is just hard. It's hard to do for a sales organization, for a go-to-market organization, even technologically,
Big
it's not
company,
easy.
little company.
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of challenges. So then it gave an opportunity for our owner founder, Ron Cameron, to be able to buy the company back from Fujitsu. And that happened roughly 7 or 8 years ago. And already an investment had been made to be cloud first, be cloud native. And it was relatively fresh in our industry. There were a lot of sort of lift and shift technologies to the cloud, but
Yep.
not just native born. So it was a great position to take. What we found is the appetite is still growing for, I need to move to the cloud. People still have on-prem services. So we're there for them.
And my version of this, because now we'll get into a little bit of the what you do
Yeah.
and the kind of building the technology to make sure it was modern. That was one of our biggest concerns, candidly. You hear, because you're not
Yep.
around a long time, do you have a bunch of tech debt, or even worse,
Yep.
is it
Yeah.
just outdated tech, which we're glad to say that wasn't our finding. But all that being said, I keep it really simple because smart document processing, we'll talk about AI a little bit and how you bring AI to the game. But I make it as simple as this because, again, age, you can remember these technologies. It was like a big deal to take a piece of paper to a copier, put it on the glass, push a
And
button, have
email
an
it to
email.
yourself.
Like, oh my God. But all
Yeah.
the data's stuck. It's a static document.
Yeah.
But that's really early days, kind of the simple kind of what KL did. It embedded
Yep.
technology in these copiers, these fax machines
That's
to
right.
share the document, right?
Yep. That's exactly right. Yep.
It's a little different today. So I was rather than have you start all the way back then,
Yeah.
take us to today, kind of what you do and how you do it. What does it mean to be smart document processing?
Okay. Yeah. And so it's a perfect seed. So as you laid it, the first step is ingesting information. And it can come via document or just any data source. So now we're multimodal. We can take it from a lot of different ways. But that first step, if you get it wrong or you have challenges there, it inhibits you from automating downstream and connecting to all these systems. So then you end up with all this human glue. And that's what we see in a lot of our customers. So we get that right up front. Then we can orchestrate what we call workflow in the middle. And that's where the automation comes in. And many times that's where the value prop lies. And then on the end of it, it is repository, meaning how long do I need to keep these records around? And do I have access and can I search for them? So that in a nutshell is our platform, which brings a ton of power to a lot of our customers.
So on the ingest part, because that's
Yep.
what does that really mean in terms of getting it
Mm.
wrong? Like what can customers do or what do you see them do? Again, garbage in, garbage out. We get that, I
Yeah.
guess, a little bit, but what do they do wrong that kind of you've seen?
No. So if I rewind the clock even 5 years ago, if you ingest a digital document, you go, oh, that's very powerful. That seems good. But if you have a human that sits there and just kind of keys in information from the digital document to the ERP or the CRM or whatever
Yep.
system, you're not gaining anything. So you have a digital record, but you still didn't gain any
No
efficiency.
efficiency, nothing.
Yeah. So for us to be able to extract that information to identify what the document is straight away is hugely beneficial, and it needs to be accurate.
Got it. Got it. So what we're saying is number one, on the keying in, we're going to get rid of that.
Yep.
Number two, we're going to make sure the data is in such a way, unstructured data becoming a bit structured.
Yes.
There's a recall element. Now
Yeah.
take us to the audience to AI element, because you sort of said cloud. That was a big deal. So maybe you should tell, maybe that was step one and sort of helped change the industry a little bit. But then
Yeah.
we're also adding some AI to it as well.
Yeah. And it's interesting because if we wouldn't have done step one, we couldn't have taken advantage of step two into AI. And so we did that pretty quick. As soon as it became more democratized with ChatGPT, we immediately started testing on our platform. What could we do with it? And where was the benefit for the customer? And so for a long time, you would use machine learning to understand documents and data and all that. But it was deterministic logic, meaning you have to kind of know what you're looking for already. With AI, it allows you to be probabilistic. So you can just say, well, this is probably this sort of document.
I can recognize that. Yep.
Yeah. And so it created all this flexibility on how we process and ingest, but also when it comes to the workflow, we're pushing the envelope on this agentic AI because we do believe that's where the power is going to lie for automation. So I think that those are still early innings, and I'm sure there's a lot of listeners that are experimenting, and we're no different, but we have some in production and we're learning as we do it.
Given where we are in AI, we passed the hype cycle. Now we're in kind of the reality cycle.
Yeah.
There's still a lot of hype around valuation. That's a different topic in the capital markets world. But as you think about the reality of what, we think it's going to do versus what it is doing,
Yeah.
and even you as the leader of the business investing in it,
Yeah.
talk just a little bit about that. How are you testing, for lack of a better way to put it, what is measurable outcomes with AI versus what is a good story or hype, or even worse, investing in something that's not going to turn out to have a return?
Yeah. It's actually the last thing we want our customers to do, is to take it on as sort of this POC that doesn't prove any value, because we know that won't be sticky. So we need a solution that is going to deliver value for our customers. And so when we think about how we put this together, one, we always have a lens of what technologies, where is it going, that there will be frameworks that we can plug into and it'll be durable. And so we don't want to create all this custom app dev for every individual customer, and then they're just kind of stuck with where we are in this time and space. It's the hardest part of technology. And so instead, we know that it's changing so fast that we need to be agile in kind of how we put that together, even though that's a technology term, agile development, but it really is being agile with how can you use it quickly, get value out of it now, but know that it's going to harden over time. And the capability is going to change and improve. It's really going to be awesome, like over the next 5 to 10 years.
And as you noted earlier, I think you said a little modest, like you said, tens of thousands. You are dealing with kind of enterprise B2B selling. So generally speaking, more 6-figure plus,
Yeah.
or high, certainly, tens of thousands. But that being said, these are medium to big bets for these companies that you're going to create value.
Yeah.
How are they testing you on AI? Because you are selling through a procurement process often, through a RFP process often, or at least some formal buying process.
Yeah.
Is AI in the customer's point of view check the box, or is it I got to have it and here's the returns I got to see from it right now? Where we are right now in the landscape.
At least in our sales process, and I'll probably overgeneralize, but I'll generalize. AI is an interesting ingredient, but it's not the main course. And so we need a business case that we can land on with a customer that's going to drive value. Precisely how it's done isn't as important to them, but what they still require is they want to validate the accuracy. They want to validate that the straight through processing can actually bring them value.
You actually did take human elements out of it.
Yeah, at least at the manual level. I think back over the last 50 years, we've done such a great job in corporate America of packaging up manual labor and even offshoring it. And it's still manual labor though. And so now we can automate a lot of that out of the process altogether.
So from your customer's perspective, this sort of is an interesting indicator of where in the economic cycle, like investing in growth, productivity, cost efficiency, what your customers are doing.
Yeah.
How fast do your customers, I know it's a generalization, they have different answers depending on the customer, but how fast do they want to see a payback on the cost of owning KnowledgeLake software?
Oh man. I think, well, one, we usually do a proof of concept.
Is the POC paid or not paid?
It can be paid, but usually it's not.
You're okay to show them how well it'll work.
Yeah, because part of the value prop is time to value, to your point. And so you want to be able to show, hey, we can get this up and running pretty quickly here, show you the value. And so then it allows them to dream a little bit with you. And then it's about process mapping and really like reimagining how they work.
So in that case that you're describing, the workflow part comes second. The ingestion, the ability to kind of read a document, get rid of manual entry comes first.
I would say so. I think so. I think that's where the tangible evidence is. Yeah.
Got it. But if I'm a customer, and I know there's a generalization, I get it, but I'm pushing a little bit on an answer because I'm curious, I think our audience is too. Selling the larger enterprises, including higher education, including state and local government, financial services, we obviously invested, so we know a bit about who you sell to.
Yeah.
How fast are they telling you we need to see a return on the cost of ownership
Yeah.
of my KnowledgeLake SaaS contract?
Yeah. Yeah. Usually months. Okay. So we're talking like within 3 months,
Is that
they
that
want to see it
fast?
like up and running. Yeah.
Up
And
and running, but a
up and
return on
running.
your annual contract?
Exactly. And
Wow.
so, and because part of the challenge of any major change initiative is sort of this fatigue of projects. And so if you go longer than that, it's just harder to see the reward. So we really push for a fast time to value. We know the customer wants it to. So that's our MO.
So I'll make sure I've got this right. I'm a target of KnowledgeLake's, sales team. You're going to tell me, within 3 to 4 months, I'm going to get a return on my investment.
Yeah.
And in theory, on an annual basis, I might get 3 to 4 turns
Oh
of
man.
value.
Oh, I really hope they get, 5 to 10 times, to be honest. The way that we think about our pricing model and the value that we deliver, I do want, especially the heavy automation projects, I want them to get 10x the return.
Got it. Let's shift back to kind of the leadership element, the CEO element, running a business, culture, et cetera.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about what's molded you, for lack of a better way to put it, as a leader. What are the things that you've seen other bosses do that you're like, I need to do more of that, and other
Yeah.
leaders?
Yeah.
And the other side, which is I'm going to do less of that. Talk a little bit about kind of that
Yeah.
stealing other people's behaviors, good and bad.
Yeah, it's a good question. And in fact, we just had a leadership summit we brought together our top 18 leaders. And for a day and a half, we talked about a lot of different things. Like what's it mean to be a trusted advisor? How do you build trust? But we also talked about like, where does leadership training typically come from? And, I think a lot of people can point to the internet today. It's like, okay, yeah, but they're usually like, they can just be like 2 sentences. And all the way to like, yeah, there are really good books out there like Simon Sinek and all that. But sometimes you read the book and you get to the top of the mountain and you look around and you're like, nobody else is with me on this.
Yeah, no one followed me up. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think the real best leadership training is experiential. And so that's what we aim to do in that day and a half. But it's also about giving people the right opportunities that may be a little bit over their skis, but that's where the learning happens. You get outside of your comfort zone. And I was blessed through my career to have people that put that vote of confidence in me and said, hey, I'm willing to give you a little bit more than you can take, and you figure it out. And so I think those are the best opportunities.
So this fine line between on-the-job training
Mm.
and hiring someone who's already been there and done it. And to your point, everyone had their first time doing something, or they wouldn't be in the seat they're in.
Yep.
How do you, as a CEO, think about that trade-off of,
Yeah.
I'm going to teach someone and invest in my current, person versus the top grading, as they say? How do you even do that math in your mind?
Yeah. I know, because one path does take more patience, right? Because like people have to
You
learn.
might literally say trial and error. You might literally say,
Yeah.
there's going to be some time invested to get this person to the same
Exactly.
level of knowledge as somebody else.
Yeah. But for me, I think the trade-off is investing in someone that has sort of this base of what I'll call just kind of company knowledge. And then you're betting on their leadership skills to progress versus someone who might have great leadership skills coming in with no base to kind of build on. And so either way, you do have a learning challenge in front of you. It's just which way do you want the learning to happen? So in our case, we do have great tenure. We have great retention on employees. So there is a lot to invest in from a leadership standpoint.
So that says you, as the CEO, are going to spend a little more time bringing people who've been at the company a while and helping them get to scale.
Yeah.
That's a really interesting thing about your summit. And I think it's a topic that every growth equity company, because this isn't major buyout land, this is still a very growth-oriented investment opportunity.
Yeah.
There is that trade. So how specific are you thinking about getting with, I like to call them tripwires? Whether it's a financial investment, we're going to invest this much over this period of time, and here's the payback.
Yeah.
Oh, if we don't hit this tripwire, or we hit a tripwire, we're going to go ahead and pull it back. This is the same thing goes with your team, right? So how specific are you getting with these team members without, not asking about this specific person, but in general, is it back to the art versus science? Is it qualitative, quantitative? How are you approaching this?
Yeah. Well, no, it's a really great topic because we talked about, growing from, we're roughly 15. We'll finish the year, nearing 20. We're going to approach 20 million ARR, but our ambition is 50 million over the next 4 or 5 years. And so the number of people, and so we've been talked about this, look around the room, this room is going to double in size.
Right.
And
At present,
it's,
we're probably not growing.
yeah. And so it really reframes the challenge that you have and the capabilities that are required to go from where we are to where we need to get to. And some of it, I think, will come from the bottom up. Like, I think there's some functions that are really great at that. Like, there's a lot of benefit to doing that. And then in other regards, it's going to be like, wow, we just have this sort of siloed need and we need to hire for it.
Now,
So then we're going to have to bring that in from the outside. Yeah.
it's not going to be, it's one of those riddles or problems that we think we're pretty good at. And I say that only because we've seen the quote unquote movie, literally dozens, if not hundreds of times.
Yeah.
So it will be the healthy push by a board is always healthy is the eye of the beholder, right? So it's gonna be an interesting, for lack of a better word, challenge, I think, which is great. I mean, I love it when people can, you as CEO need to convey, our goal is you're all scaling. Like,
Right.
The adage of what got us here won't get us there.
Yeah.
Is kind of, it's like each shoulder cheering you on, but knowing I might, very challenging.
I know. And so this is actually, change topics a little bit, but we have the CEO summit coming up and I'm so excited to be able to talk to some of these other CEOs
that have walked that walk
about what their organization looks like, how it evolved over time. Where did they make bets that didn't pay and vice versa? Where should they have invested it more heavily? Like, because it becomes clear when you look backwards, but when you're going through it, sometimes you're like, man, I'm making the best guess we can right now. Right.
There's all this input you're trying to take and trying to move quickly. Interestingly enough, as you just referred to, we may do it before and after, because as this is going to air just after the CEO summit has happened.
Okay.
Our topic this year is healthy urgency and ensuring that you have, as the CEO, as the leader, healthy urgency. So what's going to be cool is to do this to you now and then bring you back. How do you think about healthy versus unhealthy urgency? And interestingly enough, as I reflect on it, founder CEOs tend to be a little more responsible for unhealthy urgency. No offense, not to stereotype.
Yeah.
But they tend to kind of either shiny objects or they got to go fast. And sometimes hired guns can be the other side. There can be, you're going too slow for me, let's go faster. How do you think about that term, healthy urgency, and what you do to either ensure it's staying healthy or not?
Yeah. I thought you were going to point back at going through the transaction, because that's unhealthy urgency, right? Because it is just, you don't have enough bandwidth.
Now that's great. That's a great example. It is a fire drill.
Yeah. And so you're stretched in a lot of different ways to get through a transaction. And then, so then you get back to this kind of steady state running the business, and you have to watch for break points, is what I call them, is that, like, okay, it's healthy for people to feel like, hey, I'm using my capacity wisely during the day. If I don't, I'm inefficient and I need to maximize it. Now, if I have people showing up at 5 o'clock in the morning, working till 10 o'clock at night, we're at an unhealthy spot, and you're going to just get burned out, and we're going to flame out. And you may have periods of like ups and downs, but generally, and it's easy to look backwards and say, well, look, my employee retention is healthy, so I'm good. And it's like, well, maybe.
That could be a false comfort or a false.
Yeah. And so, so having a pulse on, and look, and we're really blessed because we do have really caring managers that have a pulse on their team too. And so you can have a heart to heart with them and get a pretty good read on, hey, are we going too fast? Are we not moving fast enough? But people do, they want progress, but they also need to recharge,
gotta breathe.
Because personally, I feel it when I'm not sleeping, right? When I have just too many cycles going, it's like, oh man,
you're literally awake in the middle of the night or waking up at 3 a.m. going,
oh
my God,
that's it. Yeah. Right.
This has been great. And we've covered a lot. I want to go back to the sort of leadership aspect. You as the, person who's walked the walk of an entrepreneur, which is great. I'm not sure I even knew that. Been in some big companies and now in this mid-size, what we all hope is a really high growth company in a sustainable way, and not
Yeah.
hope, because hope's not a strategy, will be. What I don't, this is not a regrets question. I always say that because people think I'm framing it into you regret something. No, just sort of a reflection. And it's sort of a, if I knew when I was 25, what I know today, if I knew then what I know now, what sticks out in your mind on that business, personal, mainly business, but how would you kind of think about, injecting some of your knowledge at your current sort of state of experience versus back in the day?
Yeah, it's a good question. I remember being that age. It was a long time ago. And my father saying, man, if I could just give you all the experience that I've got, like how powerful that would be, because you have all this energy.
All the energy, right?
All the energy. And now I have children that are around that age, and I think the same thing. But what I really want them to take away is, don't be afraid to build your network, which is, is kind of a corporate term nowadays, but it really is building trusted relationships that you can lean on and learn from. And because people have learned all these things already, and you could really leverage it. And so go out there and just have the conversations. People want to talk.
It's a great, I share that one very much with you, with kids who are now one out of college and about to start the professional journey. And, there is an element, like there's a whole social element of, the more we look down at these things, the worse we're at networking, because we think we're networking when we're texting.
Right, exactly.
It's a really interesting reflection. And I share that advice with my kids and younger people, because nothing beats a live conversation, does it?
Oh yeah. It's so rich, like just the face-to-face is so much richer than a text or an email.
But how many times do you caught your kids saying, I'll send them a text or an email?
Oh, for sure. And I'm guilty of it too. We get so busy.
Pick up the damn phone and actually make the call. Right?
Yeah.
Better yet, go have the coffee. Go have a beer.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Great advice. The point is, from a young person's perspective, get out there.
Yeah.
And meet people and connect dots. It pays off. And I hate to say it, almost like it sounds transactional. There's a really kind of old fashioned way of saying it, but the garden will grow, tend it, and keep feeding it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Instead of sort of thinking sound transactional.
Yeah.
It's really great advice.
It's really great. Yeah.
But don't be afraid. Get out there and kind of keep the network growing is what you're sort of reflecting.
Yeah. So you're right on all the distractions, but also the sense of productivity. I think we really gear the young people to be like, you're doing. And this takes a little bit of patience that you need to sit down, have a conversation.
It's really funny because when I was just being asked, as we're building the CEO summit again, we'll have talked about it. Football coaches say a lot of like these crazy things, they're in the heat of battle. But I remember a football coach once saying, playing quarterback, running a play, you've got to be fast, but you can't be in a hurry.
Right.
Cheering out of faith.
Right. And that's from wisdom. Right.
Pretty good. Right. And there's the adage of healthy urgency. There's the adage of networking.
Mm-hmm.
Like the fast, but being in a hurry is the text.
Yeah.
Right. Like I can hit them. No. There's no relationship there. Great.
Yeah.
It's a great topic. And I'm glad you shared that with folks out there that are on the early side of their career building it.
Yeah.
Kevin Herr, this has been fantastic. I really appreciate your reflections, how you got to where you are.
Yeah.
The enthusiasm and the ability. We're going to check back when we have new CEOs on. We like to, whether it's a year and a half, and kind of see how it's going. And
less hair then. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. But thank you very much for joining Electrifying Growth, Kevin Herr, KnowledgeLake CEO. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Chris.
Thank you for joining this episode of Electrifying Growth. A special thanks to this week's guest for sharing their time and insight. For more resources, inspiration, and a look inside the Edison Partners network, sign up for our newsletter at www.edisonpartners.com. Click on the Stay in the Know button in the top right corner of our webpage. Thank you again.